And if you look at what they've done now, we've got a change from just property to real property. So when you look at what it says, they change everything from property to real property, and then we've got, you know, they're tightening up, they're wanting to tighten up a little bit about defining stuff held for resale. So we're talking about the gal in the back with the development company. You know, even if you're a developer and a dealer, you can have investment property and you can have, obviously, dealer property. And it sort of has to do with, believe it or not, intent in a lot of these situations. You know, how do you prove intent? And I've had actually people put in a purchase sale agreement that is, when they're buying it, it is their intent to hold this thing for investment, which I think is sort of funny, maybe a little guilt ridden, but you know, it does understand that time is not the issue, it is intent. And we've got transactions, especially, and we only have a few brokers in here, but think about your clients if you're a real estate broker. And have you purchased anything for anyone recently, and then a month, 2 months, 6 months later, they get an unsolicited offer that's too good to pass up, or somebody approaches them. And we have these transactions in a market like we have today, where you buy something, and somebody makes you an offer, and it's a great offer, and I get the call, can I do this? And I said, well, yeah, you can do it once, but you can't get too lucky too often. So it's really important that we don't establish a pattern there that would indicate you're holding things for resale instead of investment. So if you look at down here, so we've got in general, we've got the change from property to real property. We've got just, you know, they want to sort of firm up the deal with the property held for sale. And then we've got, they actually are helping us with respect to partnerships. And understand, for example, Oregon's not a community property state. So imagine this, you have some rental houses, and you go have, you know, a meeting with your lawyer, and your lawyer says, hey, you know what, you ought to own all your rental houses in a limited liability company. I've got people that will have a pool of properties with no LLC. I've got people that will have an LLC for all their properties. I've got people that will have a separate LLC for every property. And it's really just comfort, yes.
What do you recommend?
I don't.
It's one of my
You know, it's really, you know, if you're going to go, and we're joking about, if you're going to go buy a gas station, you better have an LLC, and I'd say have that one alone. But, you know, it's a combination of the LLC and your insurance. I mean, and really you sort of look at the asset and the liability, and you know, the way things are going with tenant rights, it might make sense to have a different LLC with each property. But, you know, the problem is it gets tough when think of this. So you've got a house, rental house. Number one, can you finance that property in the LLC's name?
No.
Probably not. You can if you go to a portfolio lender, but if you go through traditional Freddie, Fannie channels, you're not going to.
Or you can get that really good interest rate.
Yeah, well, exactly. So what happens is, so what does your mortgage broker say a lot of times? Oh, just buy it personally and then deed it in the LLC, right? Have you ever heard that? Okay, so if you read the fine print of the loan, what does it say about a change like that?
Due on sale.
Due on sale. So, you know, it's one of those things where everyone's sort of, and what's ironic to me is you look at a big property and what's the bank want? The bank might require a limited liability company. So typically that LLC is not going to remove that buyer's obligation to pay, it's just going to protect them. So I would think, I mean, if the lender really understood what was going on with the LLCs, they would require an LLC, and they might require a different LLC for each asset. We're doing a deal in Idaho right now. It's $35 million, 3 properties, and they're requiring each property to be owned by a different LLC. And the thing is, in that transaction, we've got 2 clients coming in from a couple different sources. They're partners in one, and they've got a couple other assets coming into the transaction. So we're having to figure out how many. So each of those properties is going to be owned tenancy in common by a series of limited liability companies. Each one has to be new for the bank and is, you know, single member. So, you know, we're doing this because we know over time these guys have been partners, but they're not going to be, once again, back to my comment initially, easy to create things, hard to get rid of. So we're going to be creating ownership in all these different individual assets, and we'll be doing assignment of membership interests in those respective properties in the future, because the member of some of these LLCs is another limited liability company. So we're just shoveling things around over time after we've acquired the property. They've held it for a period of time their tax and legal people are comfortable with. So you can see where it should be an easy thing, and it's not. What they're proposing is, if you're filing the partnership, the LLC, as a pass-through, that they're going to, historically what happens, especially in this state, back to my comment, husband and wife put the property into an LLC, they go to relinquish that property, we have to have continuity of vesting, so we've got an exchange agreement for the LLC moving forward. Now what happens? They talk to the lender, back to her point, the interest rate's higher, now they're upset, they want to take ownership individually, the lender says take ownership individually and then put it in the LLC. We can't do that because we're not a community property state. California or Washington, should be going this way I guess, they are. So we can go in and out of an LLC in those states, we can't in Oregon. So that's how easily it gets to be a problem.
You can retitle.
Yeah, you can, but yeah, so
Retitle the property.
yeah,
to
so
your
you-
personal, then refinance it personally, and then if you want to do the switch and roll the dice.
So historically, Ken's right, historically what happens is we do what's called a drop and swap or a swap and drop. We have to break the entity, and then we have to have deeds drawn back and forth, and when do you think that happens? When the deal's in escrow, because even if we met a year in advance, if we own this property and we said, okay, gee, a year from now we're going to sell the property, we all own a membership interest in the asset, we don't actually own the asset, we could a year ago have had a meeting with all our tax and legal people and agreed we were going to change that to a tenancy in common. But then we've got lease agreements, tax returns, loans, all these things that have to be done. You can't just change the title and say it's done. You've got to actually change it. And it doesn't happen because it's expensive, time consuming. People just don't want to worry about it. So what happens is we will have left this meeting a year ago and I get a call, the deal's in escrow. I get a copy of the title report and it didn't happen. And I ask, well, gee, we didn't do it because da-da-da-da-da. So inevitably it happens in escrow. So we amend the purchase sale agreement, have escrow draw a deed from that LLC to the individuals, and we go out. The problem with that is, did we personally own the property for investment, hold it for investment prior to disposing of the property? It'd be hard to argue that we did successfully. Some states, California for one, have been chasing those. Well, tax reform, they actually have looked at it, and hopefully if it goes through, they've cleaned it up. So if you're filing as a tax, as a pass-through, that they're looking at and saying, hey, you actually do, instead of just owning this partnership interest, which is specifically prohibited from being exchanged, they're drilling down saying, hey, you might be in this LLC, but you actually own the assets of the LLC instead of the membership interest. So if it all goes through, that's something that I'm very excited to have them clean up a little bit and simplify. And it's just one of those things where we deal with it day in, day out, because even the spouses going in and out of the properties, we have problems. So it really, if they get it done that way, I'll be a happy guy, and then we'll have some a learning curve for the tax and legal community to get things taken care of. But that's really what they've done to 1031. I mean, for the most part, I'm going to miss being able to do the cars and the planes, and honestly have done very few boats, some work boats, I guess, but they're just fun to be able to talk about and do some different things. But to keep it intact, the way it works with real properties, obviously a great thing for everyone. Think about if it went away and you had tax exposure, what would it do to market velocity? What would it do to things? And I've got concerns about, obviously, with the interest deductions and the state and local tax deal. I'm not a fan of either one of those things with what they're doing, because look at the price of real estate today in our region and what's happening with it. So we'll see how it all boils out, but when it actually happens. But it looks like they've done good things with 1031, except for that personal property piece, which obviously is not very good. But I'm happy to have the real estate taken care of.